Ladies and gentlemen, we have Zack Matheny in the house today. Zack, how are you doing, buddy?
It's a beautiful day in downtown Greensboro. I'm doing great.
Yeah. We wanted to get you on. I feel like John threw this out there to me today, and I just thought it was a fascinating thing that, the haters are the only ones doing the talking. And we wanted to get you out here today to, tell your story and tell what you're doing. I feel like there's a lot more, from my perspective, I feel like there's a lot more you're doing behind the scenes than anybody ever realizes.
That's a fair and accurate statement. People often ask questions about what's going on here, what's going on there, and it's not like we put a press release out every time we make a connection for somebody or help somebody in some other capacity or work with the city or even the county. I've got a meeting coming up with the county about a housing opportunity that could happen. And so, it's a fascinating job. I love it. And it's always nice when you do get the success stories, but it's usually, what can I do to help somebody today?
Yeah. I was going to tell this. It was like, I remember, let me jump into this. The restaurants thing is the big, everybody's looking at the restaurants. The news, they put out there that all these restaurants are closing, Cools and all this stuff. And I know you can't talk in detail about all of them, but I feel you got your hand. I mean, when you learn about something closing, are you involved? Are you talking to somebody? Are you coming up with a plan for something else?
You do when any empty storefront, we're going to focus on how we can fill that storefront. And so the first thing you want to do is contact either the business owner or the property owner or both, and work with them. Ultimately, it's the property owner's decision. Should a business close or decide to close, then we've got to work with the property owner to backfill it. And typically, we can help pretty quickly. We did that with one of the restaurants that announced. We had them lined up to go into the spot. And so working with the business owners and property owners, I got an email this morning of a restaurateur that wants to meet and just, appreciates our perspective and just wants to get together and talk. And so being accessible to the business owners and property owners, and then going out and recruiting others. We've got some exciting announcements coming up. So, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all sunshine and rainbows either, but you just block and tackle to accomplish the goal of building community.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, I mean, each of these, everybody has their own story and their own reason why they closed. It wasn't just, we don't want to be in downtown anymore, and or whatever the case may be. But I think each of them had their own individual stories as to why they closed too.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
We all have our individual story, right? And sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's, tired. The restaurant business is a tough business for sure. And downtown, certainly we had a couple businesses announce, and there may be more, we don't know, or maybe we do. But, the next day, other things closed throughout Midtown. Somebody said nothing's closed in Midtown.
Rick's Pizza.
Rick's, Red Cinemas. There's been a few other restaurants that's closed. The economy's been challenging. 2024 and 5 were challenging for restaurants across the board. 2026 is starting out. I was meeting with a restaurateur yesterday, and their business so far, and he has this technology that he gets that they have subscribed to, and you have about 18 to 20 peer restaurants. You don't know their name, but they do what you do, and you can track how their businesses is, not to the number but percentage. And across the board, people were down 15% in January. The downtown restaurant was down 13%. So even though they're down, downtown Greensboro is actually doing better than most people would know. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to mistakenly say that it's that it could be better.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things I heard is that like it is the most likely business to close is a restaurant. Like it is like the hardest thing to ever keep running is, and I'm not sure. I guess that's like food costs and everything else. I mean,
Well, retailer, if you think about retail, and you have Amazon at your fingertips, you know, when Amazon went from a book app where you get books to what it is today, and how hard that is pressed on retail, that was a challenge. Now it's restaurants. The difference between retail and restaurants is retail typically closes in a downtown environment 6, maybe 7 o'clock. Restaurants are open till 10, 11, sometimes 12. And so if you're cutting food at 12 and you got to clean up, you're not getting out of there until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the
gotta
morning.
count the till and do all that other stuff.
And
too.
then you got to come back in the morning to get ready for the day. And it's a very task-oriented and tough environment.
Yeah, and also I think one of the other things is that the labor force has changed so much. I mean, you know, I've never seen so many help wanted signs in my life. And I don't know what had somewhere over COVID, like something completely changed. I don't know if everybody just went to TikTok and real estate because real estate like blew up.
Yeah, I would say that when talking to these business owners, COVID, and I hate hearing the name COVID or pandemic.
You're probably tired of hearing it.
Well, but you have to respect the fact that we are still in the experiences of COVID. We had a year and a half that were fantastic coming out of COVID. We wanted to see each other again. And I think the restaurants are still suffering from that COVID. The labor force, as you mentioned, you know, got out of the workforce because we couldn't go to work. And then you look at the economy, and you look at this year, rising healthcare costs. Like healthcare costs have gone through the roof. So you couple food costs and labor and healthcare costs, and you know it's a challenging environment.
I remember that was something the city had to grapple with too. Was the city employees, you know, raising the healthcare, you know, on their city employees.
I think that when the city did their budget, there was discussion that there was a $7 million shortfall based on healthcare costs. And what do we do to pass that to the employees? And it's a big topic. Now, that's a 3,500 roughly person organization. Think about a restaurant that may have 12 to 40 employees. Are you offering health care? How much does that cost? What do you do, and how do you do it for your managers? And you know, those costs are significant.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I wanted to. Well, my initial statement early on was I was at an arts event yesterday, an arts meetup event that Laura Way and her people put on. It was fantastic. I've actually gotten quite a few guests out of it, and I was talking with Michael Clapp, and he was talking about some of the initiatives that you were putting on. And actually, when I met you for this interview, you were meeting up with a downtown business owner. And so I was like, from what I'm seeing, I'm like, that's where I said, I think you're doing a lot more than people are seeing.
Yeah, when you saw me, I was meeting with a downtown business owner that's been downtown for 26 years. And it was interesting because we've known each other for a long time. You know, I've been around Greensboro since 2000, really got involved in 2003 with the ballpark downtown. And, you know, so just sitting back and remembering what was First Friday like back then. It was Arts Alive, and it had more arts and culture. And we're talking right now partnering with Laura Way and the Arts Council of Greater Greensboro, as well as the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Creative Greensboro, the Folk Festival, to bring more live music into restaurant and retail shops. And so that's one form of art, but there's many forms of art. And so how can we better aesthetically beautify our street? And so talking with the business owners, property owners, residents, and understanding what they want, what they feel is missing, and then going back and looking at best practices throughout, quite frankly, not the country, the world. You know, we don't have to just stymie ourselves in Greensboro or North Carolina or the country. Let's think bigger. And so, yeah, I want to brighten up the city. We've got a great focus with this new council right now. I commend them. They've had walks downtown. I went on one Monday with 4 council people. And so it's great to see their energy, and their questions they're asking are great. And I think there's a genuine interest in how can we support downtown and work with DGI to make downtown what we all want it to be.
So what is I know there's a Thrive 35, your 10-year plan for down. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So we changed the name. We shifted it to GSO 35.
Okay.
But you were right. It was Thrive 35. So the GSO 35 was where the business community, the foundations, working with the city, came to me and said, you know, we came out of this COVID. We had a plan. It's kind of changed. Life has changed. That plan was, you know, was finished in 19 and 20. So COVID, right? Smack dab. So let's go back. And they contributed funds to go back out into the community and do just that, find out what people want. I will tell you, the last plan before this one, they wanted to move the Coliseum downtown. And we all know that was not going to happen. That's $1 billion, or more. But there was you know, can we do a convocation center where A&T, UNCG, and the Swarm play, and we have a little bit of a convention center area, and how could we work that? Now, the community really focused on, let's make space, and so we have 4 committees. Energize Elm Street. Let's focus on our main street. Brian, we had, in 2016, we lobbied for a $25 million streetscape bond. Elm Street was supposed to get some of those funds. The city used those funds for other areas. Summit Avenue, Davie, Green, Eugene, to name a few. We've got to focus on Elm Street. So energize Elm Street, catalyze Church Street, the depot up to the back of Contour Brands. There's a lot of opportunity. And we've got some announcements that'll happen on the depot probably in May. If not, you know, construction could start in the fall. And that abuts the News and Record site. It's a 10.1 acre site that any city would love to have that we have. We got a mini mega site in downtown Greensboro, which will create its own downtown ecosystem. There's so many opportunities to go there. And then how do we, you know, continue to cultivate Church Street? We've got housing, a housing focus. Right now, when I took over in 2015, we had approximately 1,800 residents living in downtown. So we've got 307,000 people living in our Greensboro proper. So very small percentage. Now, today, 10 years later, we're at 4,200 residents. So we've more than doubled. So how can we go from 4,200 to 10,000? Which is one of our goals. So we've got some great folks on a committee to help think about that, and how to harness housing. And then we have Grow the Greenway. The Greenway will be finished in May, and we want to capitalize on the land around the Greenway, because when you have a public asset that has that significant of an investment, you have to make sure private investment follows public investment. So we've got a committee on focusing on land adjacent and abutting the Greenway.
How much of a benefit? Because I remember, you know, that was a big talk, was that it was going to, you know, draw a lot. Have you seen a lot of benefit out of that Greenway being promoted and attracting business downtown?
Yeah, you know, people are interested in the Greenway. It's a lifestyle. When I participated in a city council retreat and yesterday, and the panel, I participated, I sat in the cheap seats, I listened. But they were talking about young talent and how to retain and recruit young talent, which we have. I was told yesterday 25,000 college students graduate every year. How do we retain them? And they want to have some type of living and lifestyle that they can walk to in downtown Greensboro. or in any downtown urban core. And so being able to have the greenways so they can walk on and walk around and jump off to restaurants and bars, or the Greenway at Fisher Park is a great example of housing. The new Spring Street apartments that are opening up and leasing now are right there at the Greenway. And so that Greenway is unique in Greensboro because it connects neighborhoods with amenities.
And from what I'm told, I remember, I think it was supposed to connect the A and Y too.
It does.
It does, yeah. And I remember that. That was a big deal because I lived on Battleground, and I always thought it was cool. I'd be able to zip downtown on a bicycle.
and honestly, somebody mentioned this the other day to me. There was a rail line that went north,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see the old rail spur as you go up Battleground towards Midtown and past Midtown,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up on near the A and Y. If we would have kept that spur, how cool would it be to have rail service that connects downtown to all those neighborhoods where you can park and ride? That would have been cool. So how do we pull the community together using GSO 35 so that we can get as many ideas and thoughts as we can, and think big? This is downtown. This is Greensboro. This is the Triad's time. We've got Toyota that's not too far away. You've got Jet Zero, the largest jobs announcements in the history of North Carolina. You got Boom Supersonic. You've got Publix down in eastern Greensboro. You've got so many announcements that we've got. So let's take advantage of them. And if we all work together, find solutions, bring thoughts, bring solutions, we'll achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
If we sit back and be complacent and negative, we're not going to achieve it. So what choice are we going to make? And the choice that we're making at downtown Greensboro is to talk to people. We hold monthly business retailer meetings. The last one, the mayor, Mary Kay Abuzawader, spoke, and we had a great large attendance. And through that, created positivity and engagement with business owners to find solution-oriented things that would help them and promote Greensboro and achieve what we want to achieve. And it was fun and exciting.
Mm-hmm. What are you hearing from the business owners? Is there a lot of, are they getting caught up in in this closing and all this stuff? Are they positive? Like what's your feedback that you're getting from the
Well, I think
business
people are positive about downtown. I think they're positive about Greensboro, but you cannot, lose sight of what is going on in the macro economy. As we mentioned, healthcare costs, rising food costs, labor costs. You wake up and you've got a partial government shutdown. You've got, the geopolitical environment that we're in. And so thinking through those things, that's why you got to stay positive. And folks, they're reaching out, they're talking, and when you get in that business discussion, that's where the magic happens. When you can talk through things. And sometimes it's important for us just to listen.
They tell me about, and you may have mentioned this, the news and records site. I know it got mentioned on your initiative plan, and it got brought up in one of the articles. Can you tell me about the news and records site?
So the news and records site, a few years back, they were buildings on the site, and I know how important there was 2 parcels. I know how important that site is, but the previous owners are challenged to work with. And then there was a horrible incident that happened that a friend of mine was killed in one of the buildings. And so the previous owner would say to me in emails, like, please keep us out of the media. And I said, as long as you own these buildings and they're unsafe for downtown Greensboro and the people that are in them, no. And so we were able to get them to understand that raising those buildings is the most appropriate thing. And then working with another group to come in and pull together the investor group, as they are called, to buy the building, to make sure that whatever's on that site is done in the highest and best use for downtown Greensboro. And so right now we're working with them. They have hired a consultant to help engage and understand and recommend, and we're meeting with them next week. So there, you think about that. That group raised $10 million. $10 million investment on what they're going to do? Nobody knows. You got the Pearl that just is grand opening will be tomorrow, Friday. They've made a significant investment in a building that was very unique, being the former Triad Stage building. You've got the Rhino Club that opened back up after being dormant for probably, 15 to 18 years. It opened back up. You got Dear Dads, which is located, their first restaurant up on Battleground. They're opening up within the next month on Elm Street. They actually bought the building, and it's where Pizzeria Italiano, Aldo, who's been downtown for 18, 19, yeah.
I've gone to Aldo for years.
He's got great pie. And so, and Aldo, speaking of businesses, like he reached out, his daughter reached out. We don't know, the building got sold, we're gonna lose our lease, can you help us find a place? We helped them find a place. Lo and behold, the new property owner figured out, who is Dear Dads, the new property owner figured out that, wait a minute, we can't make Aldo move. So they signed a lease with Aldo, and Aldo's staying put. And that's continuity, that's working. And, Brian, to your point, what do you do? Pat myself on the back and send a press release that we helped save Aldo and Pizzeria Italiano to cut a deal with the new ownership? No. You go to the next business and say, all right, what can we do? How can we help you out of this bind? How can we help celebrate your success? But so my point being, downtown Greensboro, we acknowledge the challenges. Last year with the construction on Green, Davie, Elm, Friendly Market, are you kidding me? Every time, like I send an email every week, what's the status? And, those challenges, you just gotta, as they said in the Air Force, when you're going through a cloud, you fly straight and fast. You get to the other side. We just had to keep pushing and keep pushing to get the streets open. Well, now in 2026, we're open for business. You've got restaurants that are opening. We've got businesses that are opening. It's a challenge for sure in the economy, but we're focused with the GSO 35 plan. We've got great chairs on it, and I think you're gonna see a lot of good success come out of it.
How many hours a day do you spend at this job, on this job?
I went to bed at midnight last night. I got up at 6 to go get ready. I did carpool. I lost my wife in 2020.
Yeah.
So I'm an only parent.
Yeah.
Not a single parent. I'm an only parent. So I'm running carpool in the morning and had my first meeting at 7:45. Wow. And literally, I had a text message at 11:21 from a downtown business owner. So I got up out of bed and went down to answer their question. Meaning I went to my office to get their question answered.
That's right, and yeah, you're a parent too.
Yeah, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
I got 2 teenagers, 13 and 15.
And that's like the most parenting, like right there. I don't know. My boy's not old enough yet, so I don't know, but I believe that's.
It's I'm a crier, so but I'm very blessed.
Well, Winston Churchill was he called it blubbering.
Yeah. My kids are wonderful, and I spend as much time with them as I can, and I don't take it for granted.
I can't believe I didn't have any sooner because it's the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And my boy is a little over 1.5 right now.
I got a daughter 13 and a son 15. They spend a lot of time with me downtown. I take them to functions. I show up with them.
I was going to say, do you get feedback from them? Are they seeing things?
So, honestly, last week, a sitter, a person that helps me, picked my daughter up, brought her downtown. She went to a local coffee shop, and we were talking about it, peeling it back, and she said there was a unsheltered person that was yelling, and we talked about it, and I said, did you feel intimidated? Now, she's my daughter, so it kind of, she knows she's not intimidated, but she had that experience, and we talked about what DGI, Downtown Greensboro, does to try to help those in need. Brian, I'll tell you, not many people know this, I don't think anybody does really, we're trying to hire caseworkers and we're going to probably do this in partnership, so that the Downtown Ambassador Group, which has such a relationship with our unsheltered population, we're trying to figure out how we can help those folks get the help that they need. And so, you listen to business owners, you listen to people that visit downtown, you listen to property owners, you listen, to a 13-year-old girl that had an experience, and how we can think about what next step can we take, I
was going to say, this is sort of the crux of one of your many parts of your job, I guess, is, this is the way I thought of it from my perspective, is you have to balance between everything that's happening. So you have the unhoused that are downtown, you have business owners, and you have visitors. At least that's the way I see it. Am I missing any pieces here?
I mean, just property owners. I mean, like I mentioned to you.
Business property.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because you got housing downtown too. That's right.
You got residents. And we had 9.2 million visits last year. And I was at.
How do you calculate that, by the way?
So on cell phone data, it's all AI.
Okay.
They track location services through an algorithm.
It's scary, isn't it?
Oh, it's
A
Big
little
Brother,
bit.
but it's not.
Yeah.
We don't know who you are. We don't know
get
exactly
that.
where you came from.
Outside of you, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we don't know all that stuff, but we know on average where people were before they came downtown, how long they stayed downtown, and where they go after. And a lot of times it's gas station, because we have a lot of out-of-town visitors that come in. I was at a restaurant yesterday afternoon for lunch, and folks walked in with Indiana shirts and Iowa State shirts. They're coming from the Greensboro Aquatic Center for the Big 12 Swim and Dive Championships. So we got folks coming from all these different states to Greensboro. That Greensboro Aquatic Center, those sports and entertainment, mean they're spending money in hotels. They're spending money at restaurants. They're supporting small businesses. Hopefully they'll trickle down and shop at retail. And I can tell you, 2 of the hotels that we have downtown were over 68% occupied last year. In numbers, I told a banker that right before I came here in a meeting, and they were like, wow, that is incredible. That's each hotel, that's over 25,000 nights each. 25,000 nights in hotels that have an average of about 120 rooms. That's incredible. Like, downtown Greensboro has a lot of success stories. And maybe I need to do a better job of telling them. But I'm a doer, and I'd rather, move on to the next project or the next unfortunate crisis that we need to. I can tell you, my phone has vibrated about 6 or 7 times.
Just sitting
6, 7. I love to do that to my son. And so I know something's going on, that somebody needs some help.
Wow.
And my kids are in school, they can't have their phone. So somebody needs something.
Wow. That's wild. Yeah, that was my point. Like, you just have this this wild job and this balance. Like, how do you keep this balance? I know you talked about the aquatic, which, by the way, if you haven't been to the aquatic center, like, it's like $10 to swim. I've gone, I swim. You just have to pick the right time to swim, and I would recommend looking at the events beforehand, because you might be sharing a lane. That's my only knock at but they just have
because there's demand.
It's so crazy how much they have going on. But I think they swim early in the day. That's the best thing I can tell you. But I swim there about once a week. I try and go and swim there, stay good and stay in shape. And I haven't been disappointed yet. So
it's one of the best things we did. It was controversial at the time. I served on 2 councils on the same night because we retired one council and were sworn in on the same night, and it was brought back up, and we had hours of debates. Now you look at it similar to the baseball stadium. Back in the day in the baseball stadium, it was controversial. There was demand to put it on a bond, or not a bond, a referendum, even though it's private dollars that paid for the stadium. And so it went on a referendum. It ended up passing 60-40, but you had to vote no to say yes. And so that got done. And in the same, you think about the Greensboro Aquatic Center, it was a 5-4 vote. And it passed. You don't find too many people that don't like the baseball stadium, and you don't find too many people that don't understand the Greensboro Aquatic Center. You swim, I don't. I mean, I know how, but it's not what I do to get in shape. But I recognize the significance and the economic impact of that public asset.
And there's a lot of people like me that use it to swim. All hours of the day, you'll see those lanes being used.
Well, the Learn to Swim program. I think it's every 4th grader in Guilford County Schools learns to swim. I mean, how tremendous is that?
God, there's so much. Like we're about out of time here, and I don't want to keep you from your, any other obligations you may have, because I know you're busy, and I know you have a crud ton to do.
No.
It's part of my language. Okay? I was about to slip there, but tell us. I guess tell us your vision. Tell us, tell us your vision for downtown and what it's going to look like over the next couple of years.
I think the next 3-4 years are going to be extremely transformative. There's going to be some public investment for sure, and which any public investment you want to have the private investment follow, as I mentioned earlier. There's some public-private partnerships that can take place. The municipalities, the city, and even the county, they own land downtown that they, may not need to own. Put it back on the tax rolls. You can fill up your downtown. We have too many flat surface parking lots. We can stack some parking and put more residential and retail and activation spaces. I think of when I walk down the street, and I tell my team this often, is look around and pay attention. What do you see? What can we do about unsheltered graffiti? There's only so much we can do on empty storefronts. If the business or property owner is not communicative or has too much higher rent or too much, value on their building that makes it not financially feasible for somebody to come in and either buy it or lease it, that makes it a challenge. Some of our owners are absentee owners. You can't get them. I've had one owner that has an empty storefront we've met with 3 times. I haven't talked to them in probably 2.5, 3 years because they just disappeared. We had a verbal handshake agreement that we would lease the space to clean it up and activate the space, and it's just sitting there. So some of those things, I think the city council has a few initiatives that they've got. I think we're going to see some of that change, some arts and culture. The depot, there's going to be great changes there. And then the News and Records site, I think will have a decision made. I would say interest within, if I had to guess, and this is not anything related to the ownership group, I would say something could move on that in the next 12 months. I think, energizing Elm Street, there's some low-hanging fruit that we can clean up and make it more aesthetically pleasing, which is what Greensboro should do. That's our street. We need to be proud of it. Right now, it needs some help. It needs some love. And then how do we band together to support the folks that are in need? I've had, over my tenure, too many lives lost by not doing something. And that's hard. And it's a hard case because some people don't want help. But, there's so many aspects, and I get in trouble because I overanalyze things a lot because I think about them to your question earlier, whether I'm at physically my office or physically downtown, that doesn't mean I'm not actively thinking and considering options for how to improve myself downtown, the organization, how to help a business. And so you're constantly thinking, and sometimes I have a tendency to probably say too much.
Sorry, one more thing, and it's Lieutenant Colombo here, one more thing.
I say the same thing.
The ambassadors, tell us about the importance of the ambassadors and, what that does for downtown.
It's one of the best things we've done. It's entering in its 5th year, and we've got a phenomenal operations manager in Sean Eisenbach. He's got a heart of gold. We've got a great team. Adam is his deputy. Colin's been around for a long time, Veronica. It's just a great team. And you think about what they do. When we hired them, they were hospitality. You walk up and down Elm Street, all around. You engage with folks. You help, like I said, we have the Big 12 swim in, so you got folks that don't know where to go. Help them with directions, help with, anything. But it's evolved into street outreach. It's evolved into, seeing folks that are in need or unsheltered and connecting them with services such as the IRC, Greensboro Urban Ministry, the Kellen Foundation with mental health, Sanctuary House, or, there's a plethora, Goodwill, Salvation Army, housing, GSO Homes, BHART, which is the Behavioral Health Response Team. So, that they're, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, are the first call, in some cases where GPD should be the first call. And so there's a lot of responsibility within that group that we created. And police love them. Actually, police call them a lot of times to help. And so there's a great synergy relationship there. And I just can't say enough about them. I mean, they've our safety numbers for 2025 versus 2024 were down over 10%. So it has helped in so many different ways, and the business owners love the Downtown Ambassador team because they know they can call and we'll show up.
And the way I see it, I guess, is like the eyes and ears of downtown, or whatever you want to say. Something's happening or not happening, lack thereof. They're the ones that are seeing it.
They see a lot.
Yeah.
And Brian,
no
they're outside. They're walking around in all the weather elements. Now, granted, if it's too cold, we call it off. Or today's rain, they're probably walking around in umbrellas.
Mm-hmm.
They're in so much that they have to deal with outside in the environment, but they've stuck together, and they've been with us a long period of time. Sean was my first hire, and he's been here since day one. Mm-hmm. And that was the most important thing. When you hire somebody, you want to get it right, and we got it right.
Mm-hmm. I remember, I think when I was running EMS, I think we had one that called us in to take care of someone who's having a medical emergency. So
right.
That's where I get the eyes and ears idea from.
Well, you've got folks like, they'll walk around, and we know, without any personal, information or HIPAA or anything like that. It's more so we know who needs medicine, who's on their meds, who's not on their meds, how to interact with that person, or know when to pass that person to the organization that they need.
It almost sounds like, I remember when one of the police chiefs that Jay had on years ago, we talked about community policing, and it's almost like a community police. They know the area, they know the people, they know what's going on in a way.
It's more probably community policing than it is actual policing.
Yes.
They're not carrying a gun and a badge. They are the eyes and ears of the community, and that can help and de-escalate, hopefully, a situation if there is a situation, instead of GPD having to get involved.
that's one of those things. You know, sometimes as soon as somebody sees that bad, especially today's news media, you know, and whatever, you know, as soon as somebody sees the badge and the gun or whatever, you know, they get a different idea versus, you know, this guy in a DGI polo, you know.
Right.
How you doing? What's going on? You know, whatever.
What can we do to help you?
Yeah.
Where you from? What's your name?
Yeah.
You know, do you have family here? Where'd you come from? What are your needs? Are you hungry? I'll give you a quick story. Martin Luther King Day, this past January, I got a text of a picture, and then the text said, I'm not going to say the gentleman's name, but he had been discharged from the hospital. And he took a bus down to the library. And, you know, he climbed down off the bus. The reason why he climbed is because he didn't have any legs. They're cut off at the knees. So they're all scraped up, bleeding a little bit. He had a gown and underwear. What happens on Martin Luther King Day? Library is closed. This gentleman had zero. What do? So I get the text, the call, and you go into motion, and within 30 minutes we had clothing. This gets me. We had him clothed, we had him in a wheelchair, we had him in a warm meal, and a warm place to sleep. And do you know how cold it was on Martin Luther King Day?
Pretty damn cold.
It was cold.
Zack,
That's what the ambassadors do, and that's what I do. And Brian, you said earlier, you know, tell your story. Do you send a press release saying, we took care of this gentleman? No. You take care of the gentleman. You don't pat yourself on the back because there's another one that needs help, or a lady that needs help, or a child that needs help, or a business that needs help, or a property owner asking for assistance, or how to navigate with the city, how to navigate with the county, and how to navigate with 99 blocks of personalities. It's tough to take time and tell your story. So thank you for having me on.
99 blocks. That's
99 blocks. There used to be a newspaper called 99 Blocks. 1,800 businesses, 25,000 people a day visit downtown Greensboro on average. So if you think about 25,000 people a day, you've got the Coliseum, which is 23,000. So think about, you've got an ACC championship game. I went to NC State, so I'll use NC State versus Carolina or Duke. So you got a full championship every day in downtown Greensboro. 18,000 plus workers every day.
Yeah, John Mellencamp down here.
Yeah. His daughter went to Duke. Like, I mean, there's so many facets when you're doing this job that's why, like, you know, you try to treat everybody equally, and we do. But there's a lot of people that want this and that, and everybody's needs are different.
Zach, I told you we'd keep you here for a half hour. It has been 43 minutes.
All right, thank
I
you.
think
for
I've
having me
made
on.
you. I think I've made you late for your next appointment. So
Probably.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Tell them it's my fault. You know, is there anything you want to touch on that we have not mentioned?
No, I just want to thank you and, you know, the community television. You know, you provide an important service to our community, and I appreciate you and what you do, and keep telling the story.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me tell mine.
There's no more Jerry Rose.
Huh?
There's no more Jerry Rose. That's what I keep saying, and that's why we have to do this. So.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on. Thank you for your time. We'll have to have you back. Okay.
You let me know. Thanks, Brian.
Yes, sir. Thank you for watching our program.